And welcome back to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. This is your host, Michael Patrick Hicks. With me this week is Matt Brandenburg.
What up, late night fools?
For a special late night recording of The Abyss. And joining us this week is author Beau Johnson.
Oh, hello. Hello there.
Hello there.
Didn't see you come in.
Yeah, I do. A damn camera, yeah.
It's always that surprise. Hello.
Oh, yeah. It's turned into a shtick now, yes.
Yeah. The perfect
Thank
shtick.
you so much for joining us tonight, Beau.
Oh, no, thanks for having me, yes.
And this evening, after we do our weekly roundtable, we're going to be talking about Stephen King's The Raft from his story collection Skeleton Crew.
Which, holy crap, I definitely have never read this before, and this was something.
Wasn't it? It is such a great story, man. Oh,
I don't know if I've read it or not. If I did, it has been so long that reading it this past weekend felt like the first time. So I don't think I have read it before. I think there's a lot in Skeleton Crew that I missed, or I'm honestly not even sure if I've ever read the entirety of Skeleton Crew to begin with.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And if I had
it, yeah, I've read it 3 or 4 times, I think. And listened to it once, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if I did, it was very, very early on in my Stephen King reading career. Mm-hmm. So probably looking at like mid-90s if I did pick this up before.
And that's what I was surprised, because there was a period of time where I was picking up everything of his, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't have this. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's missed it.
It's classic vintage King. It's
I will agree. Yes, yeah.
Ooey gooey goodness.
So cocained up and just wild.
It was the best period. Coked out King. That was it, man. That was the day.
I think if I remember, was it Cujo he hardly remembers writing, or doesn't remember writing at all?
Yeah.
Cujo. You know you're good when, yeah.
Yeah.
Tommyknockers. He also has no recollection of Tommyknockers.
Yeah.
Or honestly making Maximum Overdrive. He doesn't remember that.
Yeah.
Large portions of it, I think, have fallen out from his memory also. But
that explains some things.
Yeah, a little bit.
But anyway, what do you want to recommend first, Mike?
Well, you know what? I've kind of taken a little break from horror these past few weeks. I've been kind of burned out with the genre and just wanting to kind of get back to my reading roots a little bit. So this week I dove into a Tom Clancy book that's actually written by Mark Greaney.
I was going to say.
Yeah, well, Tom Clancy is very much a brand at this point. He's passed away a number of years ago now, but his name is still put on the front of books as the author, and it's more of like a brand name kind of series.
Well, honestly, I'll say I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would have asked. So thanks for saving me some face.
Oh, not a problem. We're all about the grace here. So the one that I am reading now came out in 2017, and it is actually Mark Greaney's last venture with the Tom Clancy estate. And the book is True Faith and Allegiance. And in this book, ISIS operators get a hold of a whole lot of records of classified intel on who works for the American government under the classified designation, and they know their real identities, and they go to America to launch the next front in their war against democracy and start attacking government officials, CIA spies, and people that work for the CIA, the FBI, DOE. Pretty much everyone that has a classified designation is now a target. And it's a really surprisingly dark read. There is a lot of violence. There is a lot of killings. There's a lot of terror attacks that are going on. For his last book, Mark Greaney is really firing on all cylinders with this one.
He's going out with a bang.
Yeah,
that's right. Oh, God, is he ever? Yeah. There's some shit that's going on in this one that it's not quite to the extent of Clancy books like Dead of Honor or executive orders where they've kind of got like this really big earth-changing or government-changing climax. Like, if you recall, Debt of Honor ended with the Japanese kamikaze attack on Capitol Hill that wiped out the government and put Jack Ryan into the Oval Office. We don't get that kind of large scale, but we do get some pretty goddamn big action scenes and plot points that come up along the way here. And it's like 750 pages almost, and I am just flying through this sucker. Like,
that's a big book.
Oh, yeah. It's tight. It's the definition of a page turner for me. When I started reading, like the triumvirate for me back in the 90s, when I kind of veered off the school curriculum and discovered the pleasure of reading for my own enjoyment.
Yeah.
It was King, Clancy, and Crichton. Those were my big three that really got me through high school. So I've always been a Clancy reader, and this was just kind of returning me to my roots a little bit. And it's been a welcome break from horror, aside from The Raft, which we'll get into.
What got you into Clancy? Because even at high school age, I thought that was like an old person's books. And then when I got older, I was like, oh, that's not my style. So.
Yeah. Honestly, the movie adaptation of Patriot Games with Harrison Ford. I fucking loved that movie. And I went out and bought the book and tore through that sucker. And I was like, hold on, this guy's got more stuff. So I loved Patriot Games as a book. I loved it as a movie. And then I went back and got Hunt for Red October, Cardinal of the Kremlin, and just kept tearing through them. I've always kind of liked military fiction and espionage fiction in this vein. And Clancy just really hit that sweet spot for me. And then you had stuff like The Sum of All Fears and Debt of Honor, where you had these really big kind of things where there was nothing that was off limits. Like, he was willing to change the stakes of the fictional universe that he was writing about.
Huh.
So like, you had The Sum of All Fears, where they detonated a nuclear weapon in Denver. Huh. Which was kind of like, okay, when you're like a teenager reading this, you're like, oh shit, okay, that I literally never read anything like this before. So like, the high school curriculum of like, Aldous Huxley's not doing this. So
right.
I kind of stick with this. And yeah, it just very much became a very early staple of my reading life. And, from there, that kind of opened the doors into other avenues where the internet was just kind of starting and message boards were becoming a new thing. And you would get onto like a BBS board and somebody would be recommending like, oh, well, if you like Clancy, check out these. Or if you like Clancy, but you want like a crime thriller, then check out this. And then I started getting into like following like Publishers Weekly reviews and trying to get more into like the book community. Mm-hmm. And that opened up a ton of doors for me, going from Clancy. Then I discovered like Michael Connelly and then Dennis Lehane. That was a huge milestone for my reading life.
That would be a jump for sure. Did
you
find any like crazy boards where people were like, this stuff happened?
No, thankfully. Okay. I didn't get too far into the conspiracy theory end.
Because they're out there. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. No. As a 90s teenager, it was like the bulletin board for porn or books, and that was really about it.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. It was like, hey, I'm in high school. This is it. This is all I have.
This is all I got every day.
Yeah.
A week to download a picture. It's all good.
Oh, yes.
Oh, God. I
remember that noise, yeah.
Like, here's the kind of geek I was. The trailer for Star Trek Generations dropped online, and I went to the Apple's trailer site because that was a big thing back then. And I'm trying to download the .mov of the Star Trek Generations trailer, and it's like, okay, Mom, you can't answer the phone for the next 43 hours because it's going to be downloading, so don't touch.
We've come a long way, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, that's like, yeah. And it turns out, just like, I don't know, remember downloading stuff from like LimeWire, and it would say it was one thing, but it would be completely different.
Oh yeah, no, that was part of the fun. You never knew what you were going to get.
Like, I didn't know Bob Dylan saying "Let It Be." This is crazy. He sang Back
Even
to Black.
weirder was coming across Matt Dillon singing "Let It Be."
Like, these can't all be Nirvana songs. What is happening? Sublime didn't sing everything. Come on now. Oh man, well, that's cool. I will jump in and say the main thing I've been reading is what we're going to be covering in like a month from now. So it's a big one. It's the Ceremonies by is it Ted Klein, T.E.D. Klein? What do you call him?
It's Ted Klein. I don't know what the deal is with the abbreviation of T.E.D., but his name is Ted.
Oh, I'm going to call him that then.
Yeah, I think
I've never heard of him.
There's a reason.
I mean, like, I heard the name. I feel like I've seen his books, like, when I was working at the bookstore, but I just never picked it up. And then this thing, I won't go into too many details because we're going to have a whole episode about it. And hopefully I remember this like doorstop of a book. I'll just say I'm halfway through and not a whole lot has happened in this like 600-page book. So I just knew, because sometimes I get slow in reading, especially when it's big ones. So I was like, I'm just going to work my way through it now. And I keep thinking, I'm like, oh, I still got like 3 weeks. Maybe I can read something in between and just jump back into this book.
Yeah.
It is something.
I'm trying to edge it out a little bit to save it so we're a little bit closer to that recording so I don't forget everything. But at the same time, it's like you're saying it's pretty slow, and a 600-page fucking book is going to take me some time if it's
slow. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I've torn through a 742-page Clancy book in under a week. So it's like I don't have the best judge of how long.
You know, normally a 600, 700-page book, yes, that is a lot. But depending on who wrote it, it's fine. You can, you can burn through it. But this one, I mean, he spent and there's a lot. I'm just like, there's chunks of time where we're following this couple who bought a farm, and they're farming. The land hasn't been made, so they're like trying to get this land back. And like, in excruciating detail, we're figuring out what they're doing and how they're planting things and what they're planting and all this stuff. And I'm like, what does it matter?
Oh God.
I'm
having Billy Summers flashbacks.
There's like all this time about this lady working at a library. Now the lady I think is important, but a lot of the stuff that's happening at this library, I have a very strong feeling isn't important, but we're getting the details on what they keep in this library. And
I love how you say important.
Well, I'm just like hoping, because like every once in a while you get like these hints that like something is going to happen, or like something, this is all leading to something. And so you're like, cool, maybe I should pay attention. And then you're flipping through and you're like, I really don't care about this lady's roommate. And like, honestly, the roommate plays no part, but we get a whole life story about the roommate. And it's just
boy.
So
I always say I'm bad at writing the boring parts, and so I just don't write them, you know.
And that's I think very much so. I think this would have benefited, and we've talked about these kind of things before, because this is like an 80s. I think this came out in the 80s, and you know that was a time, I guess, when they needed to make bigger books, because Stephen King was making big books, and so that's what this feels like. I'm sure there's going to be like a big thing, because a lot of people, when I've been reading the reviews and stuff online, which, you know, reviews are reviews, but that's what they said. They're like, second half is great. Some people love it. Other people are like, there's a lot of characters and I don't care about half of them.
That's always fun.
So, and then apparently, and I haven't, but you have to read, a lot of people are saying you should read, I think it's Arthur Machen. Yeah, that guy. They say a lot of this, and like I can see it, because they bring his name up quite a bit, but people are saying like, oh, this is a huge like tribute to him. So since I haven't read any of that, I can't pick up on any subtle hints.
Yeah, I'm always kind of leery where they say, in order to really like this book, you have to read an entirely different author's library to appreciate it. That's kind of a big stumbling block for me.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
And like we've covered some stuff like that before, and I think there's a ways to do it. Like Victor Laval's.
I was just thinking of it.
I haven't read very much H.P. Lovecraft, but I fully understood what was happening. And like, obviously you guys helped explain some of that, but even if I didn't, I got it. Or even like I can't even think of some of the other ones. The one, what was it? I think it was the Gwendolyn Keist one.
Oh, the Dracula
spin
that she did?
Yes. So.
Oh, I forget the name of it. Like 8 things you...
Yes.
Gosh, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I'll be damned if I can.
Either way, that was one too where we figured out like if you had read Dracula, you'd get a lot more out of it, but I still enjoyed that story. I think this one maybe did it the wrong way, and so maybe a lot of this farming and library stuff, if you were a big Arthur Machen person, you'd have been like, oh wow, I get all of it, but I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah, that's not
so great.
It's a lot of hope.
It's a great promo for a future episode.
Yeah. I've never read Machen either, so I guess everyone stay tuned for that episode. We'll have plenty of hot takes on an 80-year-old book.
It'll be great.
Or I guess it's not 80 years old. 40 now, right? Like, right, like halfway to 80. I was close.
It's so close. Math is fun.
That much.
So yeah, that's the main thing I've been reading. Bo, what about you?
I got a couple things I've been reading. Jeremy Johnson's The Loop.
Oh,
nice.
Which I'm really enjoying. It's about.
I loved that book so goddamn much.
Yeah. It's about a town taken over by a military complex. I think I'm getting the gist of it, and they something is happening to the back of their necks, and they're turning the residents of this town into something more, I think. So that's all I'll say about that. But I'm enjoying it, and I just read. I read it a couple months ago. Razorblade Tears by Sean Cosby, and that thing kicks some ass.
Oh, nice. Fantastic.
And then, of course, because I knew we were going to talk about the Raft, I think I'm on my 5th now reread of Skeleton Crew.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then you're right. It is Vintage King, which we were talking about at the beginning. Yeah, I hate it when I get 3 books going at the time. And actually, I should say, and now it's 4 books because I have this book from James Benn, Road of Bones, that I just cracked the first chapter. So now I'm on 4 books. So anyways, it's happened before and I survived. I usually like to just keep it at 1 book, but
yeah. I end up to maybe 2. One's like a collection or anthology, and then one's like a book because you know, you can kind of stop an anthology or collection and you're not missing anything, but so you're doing fine. I mean, Skeleton Crew, you know, that one you can kind of pick up and go.
Oh, it's got 3 of my top favorite stories in there. Yes. So I had to read them all again. So
I was curious what was at the top of your list with Skeleton Crew.
Oh, Survivor Type for sure. Okay. It's always Survivor Type. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the Raft and the Jaunt.
Jaunt. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to read this. I think this is now my next collection I'll read.
Shit, I don't remember the Jaunt either. Like, I know I fucking read Survivor Type before, but I don't remember anything else from this collection. I got to check out the table of contents again because I'm like halfway there that I read it and The Mist. Yeah. Okay. I definitely read then I did read this and I just don't remember about it.
It's going to be like reading it all over again. Good for you.
I guess so. God, this had to have been like one of, it was probably The Stand, and then Skeleton Crew. It was probably one of the first things of his that I read. And The Mist is one of my all-time favorites, and Survivor Type, of course, is unforgettable.
Yeah.
But gosh, damn, I don't know why I don't remember anything else from this one.
Yeah, there's just so many good ones. I just I wish that when I read like I've said, I've read it 3 or 4 times. This is my 5th time. But when I listened to the audiobook, the first time last summer, and they have all these guest stars that read the stories, like all these.
What?
Yeah, I know. I had no idea, but it was 33 hours long too. Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah. So let's see what else is in here. The wedding gig. Yeah, word processor of the gods. I always like that one. Beach World, Nona, and there's Survivor Type. I have it in front of me here. I'm just looking at the table of contents. But yeah, some good stuff in there.
Yeah, I need to read this one because, Night Shift. That was like I think my intro into King, and then it all went after that. But I don't know. I guess for some reason, maybe I checked it out at the library at one point, but I don't remember any of it.
My first was Misery. That's what got me.
Oh, that's a good one to start with.
Oh yeah. So I bought it for my brother's 13th birthday, and he wouldn't read it. So I said, well, fuck you. I'm going to read it
then. That's the way to do it.
A little bit different from the movie, too.
Oh, yeah, that hobbling? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the hobbling scene plays a little bit different in print.
Oh, man. That's craziness. Yeah, I think King actually Night Shift was probably the first book, but I think movie wise I was shown a lot of movies too young, so I think I've seen a number. I saw like Cujo, Maximum Overdrive, of course, and I think there was a couple other ones in there that way too young. But yeah. Then I was like, oh, this guy writes books.
Creepshow was back then too, I think. There.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember as a little boy watching Silver Bullet on TV with my mom.
Yeah. That priest when he had the rocket in his eye. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was pretty well hooked from there.
Yeah. Oh, good old King. Yeah.
Yeah. I regular listeners will know that I was not a fan of his latest Billy Summers. So it was a fantastic opportunity to get back into some old vintage King, the Stephen King I grew up with, and the type of stories he writes that I absolutely love, with The Raft, which has some great characters and even better gore. Like, this is a nice full-on splatterbuck kind of.
Yeah. So why is this one number 2 in Skeleton Crew for you?
I got to say, because of Survivor Type, that a guy that's just eating himself, come on. It's so good. And slowly, and I got this bag of cocaine or smack or whatever that
heroin. Yeah
it was just, I just can't imagine. And it's just the way King writes it, and then that ending, Ladyfingers, he's just like Ladyfingers, like just the perfect ending, right?
After being cracked out of his head and getting the McDonald's theme song wrong.
Yeah. That damn seagull. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Man. those seagulls.
Yeah.
So tasty. That one. So, like, again, we just said I haven't read very much of the Skeleton Crew, but both of these, he's such like a folksy charm with what he's saying and writing. That Ladyfingers bit at the end is so like, which is perfect ending, but so like cheesy and folksy. And that's the same for this one. Just some of the things that they're thinking and they're doing is just, and like his turns of phrase. I'm gonna have to pull some out in a second, but just I was like, oh, King, what the heck?
I noticed when I reread it, there's quite a few adverbs I didn't think would be in there, but
he's definitely do as he says, not as he does.
Yeah.
I know you can't get rid of them all, but I'm like, wow, that's quite a few more than I thought there would be. Yeah.
So it was the cocaine.
Yeah.
It was the cocaine. Yeah.
Which, like, if you ever need it, an example of that is to read his notes for this story. Because for sure throughout this whole thing, I was like, oh, man, he's going to say, oh, I love the Blob, and I want to write my version of the Blob. But instead, his notes are like, oh, I wrote this story, and then I got arrested, and then I luckily got money from the story I sold. But I couldn't remember. Yeah, he's like, I got arrested because he was stealing cones from some small town, and they were like, you got to pay something in the next 7 days or you're going to go to jail for 30 days. And he was like, I know I tell people not to use Deus Ex Machina, but it happens in real life. And he's like, I got money for this story, in which he used to pay to get, his get out of jail. But then he could never they never sent him that story. And so it was like 10, 15 years later, whenever this came out, and he rewrote it, just remembering what it was. And then, so that's everything he says in the notes. And then like the last paragraph is like, well, if anyone has it, send it to me. And I was like, what kind of note section is that? And it's like, oh, well, it's King cracked out just rambling about stuff.
Yeah. This is the hard drugs and alcohol phase of his career.
I'm going to have to read the notes. I haven't read that in years for sure.
It's pretty entertaining because I wanted to know. I was like, for anyone who hasn't read the story, real quick before spoilers, it's, college kids, they go to this lake kind of the last thing of summer, even though it's October, and there's a raft and they go swim out to the raft. And then there's this thing floating on the water. And then, terror ensues because it's King. It's really good. So if you haven't read it, read it. But now we're going to jump into spoilers because that's what we do. Because I wanted to.
I'm racing through this. It's like,
well, because I got all these thoughts.
Recap. I got all these. Let's hear them.
I wanted to know. I mean, maybe I didn't want to know what this entity was, but I mean, we don't have to do spoilers right now. I'm fine if going skirting around. Around. I mean, there's not a lot of depth to this story.
Talking about there's a whole the water's deep.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
This is.
But I think it's a security system. I think that's what it is to keep predators out. Right? So
I love that idea.
Something the rich people left behind to keep them off their summer homes.
Yeah, just keep the riffraff out. Yeah.
Get off my lake.
Yeah. Now I love this story, but have you guys seen the version in Creepshow?
I haven't. I want to.
So it has a much the story is great, but the ending in the show is so much better.
Is it? Oh.
You want me to spoil it for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Randy jumps off the raft and he swims for it and he makes the shore. And he goes, I beat you. I fucking beat you. And then it rolls up onto the shore and takes him back into the water. Oh, so much better.
Oh, it's amazing.
That is perfect. Oh my God. I love that. I haven't seen it, but then I was watching, I think it's the second In Search of Darkness on Shudder, and they covered that. They cover Creepshow too, and they show scenes from that. So I kind of had an idea, but that is amazing.
That was I'm like, that's not how the book ended. Oh, this is so much better.
Yeah. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Because I wanted to I didn't need King to explain it, but it would have been nice. I feel like this is the Blob and H.P. Lovecraft mixed together.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just with the hypnotizing and the colors, and then it being this giant puddle of goo.
Oh, yeah, I love it when Deke's getting pulled through.
Oh my God. Fucking brutal.
And now he's like a referee. He's gonna good.
Now he's waving at me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, I guess for if you made it this long, we haven't totally spoiled it yet. It's these kids, and they're ready, and they see this nice little spot on the water that's floating closer and closer. But King does it nice because at first he's kind of just, you're like, these kids. Well, I mean, not kids. I'm calling them kids, but they're not.
Oh, I mean, they're like 19,
30, 20. Yeah.
And you got Randy and Deke, and then you got
Laverne and Rachel.
Yes, Laverne and Rachel, and Deke is supposed to be with Rachel, and Randy's supposed to sort of be with Laverne, but then Laverne's been just all over Deke, and so that's the main focus for the first quarter of the story. You're just oh, this Deke guy is a complete jerk.
He's a football jock. Very stereotypical football jock.
Yeah.
Were you a football jock, Matt? You kind of went quiet there. Like,
I went quiet because there was a space between football and jock, and I was like, is he just calling him a football?
Yes, he is just a football. I was drinking whiskey, motherfucker.
Okay. I was mid-sip. Yes.
I was like, oh, that's cool. He's just a football.
I wet my whistle.
And that's I'm trying to find, like I said, he's got such a funny, and I mean, he does that for all of his story. King has like this way of kind of this like charm, this, I guess it would be his main charm.
Yeah, I think that's what makes him work so well as a storyteller.
Yeah,
he has a very natural voice and rhythm, and it's a very personable kind of storytelling.
Yes. So yeah, just these funny like things, and I'm not gonna be able to pull it out. I should have highlighted it, but there's so many funny little like phrases in here, and just funny little things where he's talking about even their nicknames for each other and just the way they act. And I mean, even the referee comment. I mean, that's all like, it's just a funny way to put it. He puts in the humor as this really horrible stuff is happening.
Yeah. In fact, my eye fell on this one. Like, they're at their apartment. We kind of start the story in progress, and we do a little flashback to when they made the fateful decision to leave their apartment on this October afternoon to go for a swim before summer completely disappears. And they're talking about one of the girls goes to the fridge to get like the last beer, and the beer is hiding behind a stack of blue Tupperware storage boxes. And King does one of his famous parenthetical notes to tell us it's the one in the middle. Yeah. The one in the middle contains some nearly prehistoric chili, which was now thickly festooned with mold. Randy was a good student, and Deke was a good football player, but neither of them was worth a fart and a noisemaker when it came to housekeeping.
Yeah. That's it. That was the one. I was just like, who would come up with that other than King?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a fantastic way of describing these two. And it tells us a lot about them, like about what their priorities are, and it's definitely not on making their apartment habitable for very long-term living. I just imagine this place is covered in empty bottles and empty pizza box cartons and
Iron City beer. Yep.
But it's just perfect. They swim out there, and of course Randy he's the first one to see this, and at first they think it's an oil slick, and he's like, oh, well, that's weird. How does that get here in the middle of this lake? But he's like, oh, something's wrong, because it keeps getting closer and closer. And so then that
shape is kind of changing and giving off weird colors. So
yes, which is just weird and creepy. But yeah, like even after they. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's mesmerizing to read it as you're reading it. Like it's so he's so good, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we need to assume there at the end, right? Is that Randy's kind of getting hypnotized when he starts like drifting off into thoughts and everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But for no pain when it comes, right? Yeah. I'm thinking that's what it's there for. Yeah. So hopefully that's what it's there for. Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't seem like that for the rest.
No, not for the rest. No. But I love later in it when after he kicks Vern into the water, and Randy screamed. He screamed, and then for variety, he screamed some more.
Yeah,
just three little sentences, and I just love it. Yeah.
Oh, it was perfect. I just love the when it's just Laverne and Randy on the raft, and they have to like stay on the crack or like not on the cracks because of what happens, and that's just like this perfect image and this perfect like capture of like dread. Again, for the listeners, they all stripped down to just their underwear when they swam out, and it's late October, so it's gonna be cold out there, and they're trapped on this thing, so they're all freezing, and they're just trying to like figure out. And of course, it's nobody's around. It's all vacation homes. Nobody knows that they're out there, so it's just like this perfect setup of like, what do you do at this point? Because, like, I mean, you can't help but think about it. Like, well, what would I do in this case?
And then when he was watching it kill Deke, he could have swam, and they didn't. They were mesmerized by watching their friend get destroyed.
Oh, yeah. God. Yes.
Oh, and that is brutal destruction. I mean,
it is.
Yes. I mean, like, it's a perfect, like, yeah, because, like, you get the Rachel thing where she touches it and then it just starts slowly eating her until she falls in, and then it just, like, destroyed, and they're just watching it. But then, Zeke is standing on a crack, and it just starts pulling him through this crack. Yeah. You can imagine, for anyone listening, it's a raft, so there's not like these cracks are very big.
1/4 inch, yeah.
And it starts pulling his foot through, and his leg breaks, and it's still pulling him under, and the circulation is being cut off so tightly that he starts bleeding from the pores and his mouth and nose and ears and his
he was
scalp.
Alive for a long time.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah.
Oh God, it was. Oh.
And just a description, just them saying like it burns and everything like that. You're like, oh God.
Yeah. The one part that I really like that. And it kind of hit me hard, and it's something that's really, really simple. And it's one paragraph that is 4 words long. And it's when, after Rachel and Deke have been just completely, like you said, completely destroyed by this thing, Randy and Laverne are the last ones left, and the sun has gone down, and they have to try and keep each other awake, and Randy's trying to keep Laverne from becoming mesmerized by the lights this thing is giving off. And the paragraph just reads, "That night was forever."
Oh, yes. Yes, it was. Can you imagine? Yes.
Oh, God. Well, and even like the setup of having Laverne kind of as sort of this jerky, because she's, mega flirting with Zeke, and
she's eye fucking him for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's before Rachel falls in, she's been like a complete jerk to Rachel too. Like, she knows that she stole Zeke from Rachel, and she's proud of it. And Rachel's like, we should go. There's this weird goo. And they're like, hey, don't fall in, and being all like snotty. And then to have those two then be the last two on the raft was like perfect, because they're just kind of like, she's gone crazy. He's kind of just like, I can't deal with this. But I mean, eventually
checked out.
Yeah, and just, man, sorry to jump over, but I just thought about this. The fact that they beat the crap out of Laverne is insane.
Oh, Deke was such a jackass.
Yes. Oh my God, I was like, what is happening? Because Laverne's going crazy, of course, and like crawling all over him. So Zeke starts like punching her, and I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah, there's a real fast breakdown with this group, but I guess after you've just seen Rachel's face dissolved, that
all bets
are off. Yeah. Not that excuses Deke's behavior in any way. So.
No.
He wasn't long for the world after that. That's for sure.
No, he wasn't.
Oh man, but yeah, I when he realized that he should have left when Zeke was getting eaten, I was like, oh, that would have been a smart idea.
Yes, yeah. And even when he said, you know what, he could have kicked just Laverne in before it actually happened, but at least, he's got some good stuff going for him when he said, I can't do that. Yeah. Paid for it in the end, but yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And what I didn't expect was them to end up having sex and then her getting eaten while that was happening.
But it was sort of organic too, right? And there's the only warm spot left. Yes.
That's just so wrong.
Yesterday heat on this cold October night.
Oh my God. And it's crazy because he's staring. He starts like staring at the color because they got to watch. Yeah,
I can watch it. I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh God. And then he just starts dreaming about the Beach Boys in the summer and all this stuff. And you're like, oh, this is gonna end poorly.
Mm-hmm. And there was some transition. He was thinking about hair, and then, oh God, it's in her hair. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, like, his little touch. Can't remember if he does it earlier, but that part when he starts putting everything in parentheses, I thought was a nice touch. Oh, no, he did.
Do you love and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just this, like, fun, like, that must be the thing talking to him or him giving the thing a voice. Because especially there at the end then, too, he kind of, like, you're going to have to be nice to me. I'm going to sing to you. And it's like singing You Do You Love. And I was like, oh, man, is that the oil slick talking to him? Is that him just going crazy?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, too, it's Do You Love comes in play in Nona when the guy, he goes on a killing spree and he thinks he's with this woman, Nona, but he was never with a woman. And she's always like, do you love? Do you love?
What?
Yes, I know. So I don't know if it's connected or he was just on coke at the time writing these stories. But there is some connections with some of the wording. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, that was. I mean, it was like a great, like, just I love and I'm creeped out by like things that can hypnotize you. And so like when that stuff was happening, I was just like, oh, that's super creepy and weird. And I don't know how you can handle that.
Well, I mean, it is a natural predatory development. You know, there are water predators that do give off that kind of light, like an anglerfish.
Yeah.
Light off its face to draw in other fish that it can eat.
It's just messed up to think about that, though. It's like, especially when it is that moment of him having sex with her and just it like doing that. It's just like this really twisted kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. It is pure king, man. That's so awesome. I wish I could think of things like that. I think of my own things, but that is just, I can't see myself thinking of something like that. So
yeah. Big. Well, and that's, I was thinking about that for this one too, because what he does so well in this story is there is absolutely no explanation of what this thing is and how it got there. There's no like, oh, there was like a weird cloud or there was like a weird meteor storm or something. It's literally
totally okay with the lack of explanation. I don't think it's needed.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The outdoors are already creepy as fuck. So it's in with there. Like we've talked about my impressions of camping and all that before. So it's like, yeah, I can see some creepy, oily fucking thing in the water that just eats people. I buy that. That's why I don't go into fucking lakes.
Yeah. I stay in the cottage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with lakes. We always try to joke about that. I mean, like when you get to a big enough lake, like Lake Michigan or any of the Great Lakes, then you're fine. But like when you start
you though?
Well, you're better than smaller ones when there's like just no.
I mean, how many times have they had to close off the lake beaches because there's weird shit growing on the water that no one knows what the fuck it is?
Hey, that's you East Siders.
No, that's all over the place.
All we have here in Kalamazoo.
You mean to tell me Lake Erie isn't home to all kinds of mutagenic creatures?
We have those here in Kalamazoo.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
All those fucking waste treatment plants from the cereal companies dumping shit in the river. You don't know what's out there.
Yeah. We get like two-headed frogs and stuff.
Yeah, you're like mass producing chuds over in your region.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Reminds me of DuPont. Yeah.
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 Oh yeah, it's terrible. An aside to this story, but I had friends that are not from the country, and when they found out we were lived in Kalamazoo, they were like, "That's the place with the mutated frogs, right?" And I was like, "We have a lot more than that here in Kalamazoo, but
we're known for more." Yes.
We also have cereal. We got Kellogg's.
That's Battle Creek.
Oh, yeah. So you actually don't have anything else than the mutated frogs.
We just have lots of beer.
Okay.
Beer.
So there is that. But yeah,
have you tried to eat the mutant frogs?
I haven't personally, no, but
people have.
I'm sure they have.
Oh,
people will eat anything. I'm surprised nobody tried to eat this oil slick.
Man, well, they're eating. What are they eating? What's the horse dewormer? Come on, those guys are fucking beyond crazy now. Yeah.
I mean, Joe Rogan says it's delicious. I don't know.
Watch me own these libs. Yeah.
I mean, what isn't that like? What half of Star Trek's about? Either what humans want to do is fuck it or eat it. So
you're not. I can't say you're wrong.
So I mean, it's there, and it's a two-headed frog. So who knows what you could do with it?
Right. Well, you only eat the legs, right? Is that what they say?
That's right. You don't. Yeah, there's no meat. I mean, we learned that from Survivor Type. You got to eat the legs first.
Yeah.
Oh God. So it's kind of funny.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's kind of funny. You had mentioned there were tie-ins to Nona with this Do You Love, and one thing that I was thinking about as I was reading the Raft is it's kind of parallel Survivor Type, which I know you had originally picked to want to talk about tonight, and we settled on the Raft. But there are some neat parallels, I think, between the Raft and Survivor Type, where we get these instances of being
seclusion.
You're forced into isolation. Being eaten is a definite theme that crosses over between the two.
Oh yes. In different ways, but yes, you're right. Totally.
Yeah. We're stuck in the middle of the water with no way out.
Yeah.
And there is absolutely no way out. Like these people are never getting out of this raft. The guy in Survivor Type is never getting off that island.
Oh, the hypnotizing can be the same as all the drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-hypnotizing.
See that.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much fun King had when he wrote these?
Oh my God.
He's just having a great time.
He was.
I'm sure he was just cackling. I mean, he was just dying, especially this one. I mean, he had to have just been like, I'm going for the most goopiest thing, and it's going to be great.
and it is. It is great.
It is. Yeah.
I know from his story notes for Survivor Type that that was something that made him cackle. He was mulling over the idea of a guy having to eat himself, and he just was grilling up some burgers and started laughing to himself, and his wife asked him what was so funny, and that's when he had to explain to her what he's laughing about. He's like, that's when I knew I had to do this story.
I think if I remember, he always does his homework. He said, is it possible he would interview doctors or whatever?
His neighbor, yeah.
Oh, was it his neighbor? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, his neighbor was a retired surgeon, I think, and had to ask him, like, would it be possible for a man to be able to eat himself? And I was like, yep, absolutely, they could. If they want to survive bad enough.
Then what we need is a Mythbusters on how long can you survive being pulled through.
We need a volunteer, too. Yeah.
This week we brought in Bob the Hobo to help us with a special experiment.
Bob the Hobo.
Poor Bob. Yeah.
Oh, man. It took like 3 of them to figure it out.
To carve off pieces of his leg and eat it to see what happens.
Like, I just can't imagine, like, how long, if you're getting pulled through a small crack, like, would your hands go up as a referee, or would you be waving?
Yeah. Well, I think by that time he was dead. So I think they're just, the wood is just pushing them up. Yeah. But it's just, it had to have some sort of, I'm going to say, acid in its body or whatever to break down the bone to pull it through. Yeah.
I was wondering that.
More curious about, like, the circulation issues, whether or not that's something that could actually happen. Like, if this guy's, and I guess it could. I mean, it sounds plausible enough that if you're being pressed enough between these forces that the blood needs somewhere to go, and it's just
go. Yes,
like a toothpaste.
Yeah,
and the skin's gonna go at one point. Yeah.
It just goes into complete hemorrhage and.
I hope people go and read this story.
Oh yeah, seriously. I started then wondering, like, if this thing would hang out until the summer, or if, like you said, and I really liked the concept of the rich people putting this in the lake.
Now I think I think I might be mixing it up. I don't think I got that from the book, but I think that's the line from the little movie they did of it.
Is it? Oh, I just thought it was a funny. I just thought it was a funny, like, smart ass comment that I was like,
no. I remember it. Yeah. So if it wasn't in the book, it was probably in that movie then. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, I don't
crazy.
think that was in the story, but okay,
No.
I definitely have to check out the movie.
Yeah. Because
I was thinking maybe that's why all of the homes were abandoned. Like this thing had eaten all the summer owners. Like
that's because like
and then they just fled.
In the story, there's literally no explanation. It's just there, and
he's there. Yeah. So yeah, it must have been in the movie then. Yeah.
I love that idea. We'll show them kids.
Yes.
That's an awesome idea, though. I really like that.
It's like The Prisoner. That's like the balloon thing in The Prisoner. Did you ever watch that show?
I never watched The Prisoner. No.
Oh, you didn't either. Oh well. Anyway, there's an island and they have like this big ball like balloon, and like if you escape it, like jumps on you and then basically eats you. And it's kind of like their guard. And so I was thinking of that for this. It's a really weird show. It's definitely worth watching. It's a 60s thing, so it's really out there, but it's quite entertaining. But yeah, that idea cracks me up, because otherwise I was like, well, when the summer starts, either it's got to hibernate in the winter, or it's just going to just take over the whole lake, and then it will be the blob.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine it. Yeah. Well, I know he doesn't give it in the story, but yeah. So if it's a security system, that works. It just works for the off season, I guess, right? Yeah. And then hibernates. It's full. Yeah. And
it's their little pet. They got a name for it and everything.
It's Spot.
Yeah.
Oh. Boom. Nailed it.
Oh, come here, Spot. That would be a fun like side story. It's like a little kid loves Spot and is like always feeding it and everything, and you're like, oh, don't get too close.
Yeah, like Betty White in Lake Placid.
100% that would be amazing. The one other thing I noticed in the story notes that I thought was interesting is, so he talked about and I think he's talked about this in the On Writing and stuff too. A lot of his stories he sold basically to kind of like Playboy type places. Mm-hmm. And he was saying for this one, and it wasn't this version because he couldn't find this version and he had no hard copies of it, but it's the basic concept of the story. But he sold it for $250 in 1967. Wow. And I was like, think about that math to now.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell?
Yes.
Now it's like, hey, come and join our big anthology. We'll give you $5.
Yeah. Especially when he says he's like these places.
Can't send you an author copy though, because we can't afford the shipping.
But I'll give you $5. Yeah. Oh man.
We can send you the ebook, but you only have. But then we can only pay you $3.
Oh man.
Oh, funny. So yeah, back in '67, you could have sold it to a place, and it was like weird because they didn't send him a copy either, because that's the whole point, is he didn't have a copy of it.
I mean, shit, if they paid $250 for it, fuck the copy. Just as long as that check clears, I don't care if I get the magazine.
Yeah, back then for sure. Yeah.
Right? Oh man, I was just like, what world are we living in? Okay.
Back when freelancers used to make real money.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that Tabitha picked up that carry out of that garbage can or whatever.
Oh God, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, just so crazy. But yes, this was a good one. I loved it.
It's such a blast. This story is so much fun.
I mean, he had to have been reading like some splatterpunk, right? You would think.
I would think.
And that's where he stole some of the idea.
If not reading it, then at least it must have at least been on that cusp when splatterpunk was starting to become a thing. I would imagine. I don't know when this was originally published.
I want to say it's got to be 80s, no?
Maybe. Yeah, I'm sure it is 80s, but as far as I guess if Clive Barker was starting to become a name, he had Skip and Spectre. They were starting to publish, so I would imagine if it was in that time frame.
This was 82.
82, okay.
At least the story, the collection, not so much. But he said he wrote the original one in 1968.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
But then, he lost it and then had to rewrite it.
That's interesting, though, to try and figure out where this would have fit within like the splatterpunk era.
Yeah.
If the story from '68 is any bit similar to the kind of visceral graphic violence that is present here.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have predated all of that. But it's interesting, too, that some of this would be that a mass market publisher would have put this on these grocery store shelves.
Yeah.
Where it's like nowadays you find that they're a little bit more timid in terms of what a big publisher outside of like The Loop would consider horror, because The Loop really gets into some goopy goodness, too.
It does, yeah.
Crazy. But yes, so awesome. Thank you for recommending this.
Oh, yeah, no, I wanted to do Survivor Site, but when Richard said that you guys had just done it, I'm like, well, let's go with number 2 then.
Yeah, it was just a few episodes ago, too, that we had covered it. So
I mean, we could cover it right now. I mean, actually, that would be a good What was our big question out of it? Was this tied to any of the other Stephen King stories? You know how he likes to tie, he's got his big mythology. Is the Raft or Survivor type in any of that mythology?
I don't think so. I can't say that it is. I think they're standalones. Besides the Iron City beer that's been in some of his other stories, I would say that's what the connection.
We would have to check with Edward Lorne and find out, but
okay,
how much the Raft ties into any overarching mythos. I wouldn't think so, but I mean, this blob could definitely be from Roland's world.
Right. Yeah. It could have escaped with it wherever he came from.
Yeah, it hitched a ride on Blaine and wound up in our world. And
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
I always remember the first time I realized that his world connected. I was reading Eyes of the Dragon, and I didn't realize that Merlin was actually Randall Flagg. And I'm like, what the fuck? I must have been 18 or something. In my head just it blew, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea. And then I was even though I was reading King then, I was ravenous. And I went through everything he had, and it ended up leading me, because I had no more to read. It led me to Dean Koontz, which I like a lot of Koontz too, a lot of early Koontz. But me and him parted ways when Odd Thomas came about. I just couldn't do Odd Thomas, and I never got back to him. Yeah.
I was about the same way. For me with King, it was Insomnia, and the child was drawing Roland and the Dark Tower, and it was just like such an odd thing that I had to go online. I was like, okay, what the fuck was up with this thing?
Yeah.
And that's when I learned about the Dark Tower. I was like, okay, well, fuck, now I got to go down to Media Play and buy this box set that I had seen a few weeks before when I bought Insomnia, that had the first 4 volumes of the Dark Tower in it.
So when you got to those couple pages with Patrick Danville.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he was in the gymnasium drawing, and the old guy was sitting behind him or next to him and seeing what he was drawing.
Yes, yeah. So I'm like, that whole book connected by 2 or 3 pages. He's going to save Roland. Like,
yeah.
And that was years before he had written the final couple books, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. By quite a few years, I believe.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it was desperation for me is when I started figuring it out. And I think that was kind of a cheat, though, because he wrote that one in the Regulators kind of as a tie-in together, but then he had a lot of, like, I guess, hints in that too. And I was like, wait a minute. And then I think somebody also told me, I think, how was it Dreamcatcher? There was something where they were mentioning there's like a water tower that said Pennywise lives, and they were like, oh, that's tied to it. And I was like, wait, what?
No, I don't think it was tied to it, but he's just giving you a little nod like, hey, buddy, I'll give you an Easter egg.
Just like,
he's trolling you. Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe he was Duddits one of the beam breakers?
Yeah, he could have been. Yeah, I don't ever remember reading that he was a beam breaker, but he could be.
Definitely could have been.
Yeah.
Huh. So wacky.
It's
like, and I know, like, now he kind of, I mean, maybe not now, but especially when he was finishing Dark Tower, he kind of, all of his other books, he kind of figured out a way to tie it all together. But I was trying to wonder if, like, back then, if he was, like, intentionally doing that, or if it was just this kind of fun thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably once you like had like an aha moment, like my stuff is connecting more than I thought. Maybe like I don't know his thought process, but
yeah,
I remember like when I was starting my writer stories, I'm like, oh fuck, man, I'm writing about the same character, and I had an aha moment, right? So I'm like, oh, I got something with legs here, right? So, yeah.
Like I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, that Beau Rider though, that works. It's the same. The Rider character, man, that is. He is a heck of an invention, Beau.
He's an angry motherfucker. Yeah.
Oh, he's great.
Well, thanks.
Oh, you certainly, I know you were going on earlier that you wish you could have written some of this stuff like King, but I think with some of those Rider stories, you definitely get there. I just read your first collection not too long ago, and the scene where he's torturing the guy with the car battery to the testicles.
Oh, yes.
That's definitely a moment.
Well, thank you. As Rider gets older, it's harder to find different ways to kill people without repeating myself too much. So that was a different one, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, I know your new Rider collection just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to plug that for us?
Oh, brand new dark. Yes. Why, certainly. Thanks for asking.
Dedicated to Mike.
No, it's the new book. It's the first standalone Rider. It's still short stories. I tell a man's life through short stories, and the other books they're sprinkled. Stories are sprinkled throughout those books, but this one's just pure Bishop Rider, and people seem to dig it, which is great for me. I like to write it, so.
Awesome.
And we'll have more eventually. I know your new one just came out, so.
Mm-hmm. So
probably.
Yeah, I think I have one more in me. I the way I've told Rider's story out of sequence, I think I got enough for another. I don't think my goal was 100 stories, but I don't think I'll quite get there. I might get to 96 or 97, but that's close enough.
I mean, that's still
that's close enough. I mean, at that point, right? 3 more, you can do that.
Well, yeah, I thought of that too, but I'm just like, man, I just don't want to, wear out my welcome. I don't want to regurgitate, I don't want to phone it in, right? So the plans that I have, I have it half written now. It's going to be called Old Man Rider, and it will be the last Rider book.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Mm. Have you given any thought to doing like a chronological cut at the end there?
You know what? People have mentioned that too, but then I'm like, oh man, I'd have to go back and sort it all out. It just seems rather tiresome, but in a couple years, maybe I'll want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for some reason, the way I write it, I like it how it's out of order and how I can connect it by being out of order. I don't know if it'd be the same if it was chronologically in order. And then it might have mistakes that I'm not aware of, right? Oh, wait a minute. That guy wasn't here at this time in Rider's life, right? I use a middle point. I took part of his leg, and that's my middle point of his life. And it goes, he's got like 2 main partners. Early is this John Batista, and late is Jeremiah Abram. So there's some overlap in the middle, but the majority is Jeremiah is with a Rider when he's an older man, and then a younger man is with Batista. A younger Rider is with Batista.
I was wondering, writing these out of order, how do you keep track?
Yeah, so I take that guy's leg to make the middle point.
Yeah.
To split it up. And so everything like pre-leg is usually like Batista and a younger Rider when he finds out about his mother and his sister. And then everything after he gets his leg taken and Jeremiah saves him is older Rider. So that helps me keep track of things. Okay. But I do have to go back and reread some stories when I can't keep all the names straight.
Yeah, I was thinking like there must be a ton of note cards or spreadsheets or.
Yeah, there is. You know what? I think Nick Kolakowski was the first guy to ask me that, and I did. Halfway through the second book, I had to start writing little notes of time frames and people that were in it. So that happened, yeah. Because I'm a pantser by nature, right? And I usually just write. But I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to. If any mistakes, I want to minimize them as much as I can.
We need to get you one of the Bishop Rider super fans like Brian Keene has for his overarching mythos, and Stephen King has like Robin Firth and Bev Vincent. Yep. We need a Bishop Ryder phenom who can keep track of all these things for you.
Well, you killed that guy in a wood chipper last story. You can't do it again.
Yeah, right? You're like, damn it, back off.
Damn it. Yeah.
That wood chipper was pretty goddamn fun, though. The one that I really loved from your first collection was the grocery store recycler machine.
Oh, the baler.
Oh my god.
The baler, yes.
let me tell you a story about that story.
Please do.
So I was managing a store called Giant Tiger, and we had our staff meetings out back beside a baler. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the baler, and then I look at my employees, and I'm like, could I fit those people there? And that was the genesis of that story. And then when a few of them read the story, they're like giving me the side eye. So I'm like, it's just fiction, guys, but it's weird where ideas come from.
Oh, I'm just super happy you did not just confess to a crime.
Either we have to edit it out or we get subpoenaed.
Yeah. No, Beau, I don't know Beau Johnson. Never heard of him. Who is he?
Never heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't even go to grocery stores. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What are those? What are groceries?
Food? I don't eat food. Mutant frogs. That's all I eat.
Just feed them to my pet spot.
Beau, thank you very much for coming on and talking about the Raft with us tonight.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me. It was great.
Oh, good. Well, I hope you had fun, or at least
I did. Yeah. Too bad we missed Richard, but maybe in the future sometime.
There you go. Next time.
Actually down 2 co-hosts tonight, Rich and our new host Villamay. We're not able.
Villamay. Yeah, you know what? I did see something that she joined. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
She's in Iceland, so it's like probably like 2 a.m. there or something.
Oh, is that why you guys do it at 10 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah, because it's like I think it's like 4 p.m. for her when we do it.
Oh, so that's my fault because
it's okay.
Not at all.
When Rich proposed this time, she was like, "Oh, I might be able to make it," and I was like, "Are you sure?"
But she thought it was 8 o'clock her time, and then that ends up being like middle of the night. Once she realized it was our time.
Like, she needs her sleep for sure. Yeah.
Well, apparently she has to go to work or some bullshit like that.
Some bullshit like that. Yeah, I don't know. Gotta pay the bills. Yeah.
Yeah. That crazy stuff.
Well, where can our listeners find you online?
Oh, yeah. Twitter, Beau Johnson 44. I'm new to TikTok. I'm an old man, but I'm trying my best there. And that's Beau Johnson 44 too. I'm over on the Face Crack, of course, where you get no traction for books. But anyways, I'm still trying over there too. And Instagram at Beau Justin Johnson. And I think that's it.
Matt, what about you?
Yes. So remind me real quick, Mike, is this coming out in October, you think?
I think so. Are you going to have another story out?
Well, no, but what I will have is one of my stories is going to be in a Kickstarter. So be ready. It's 99 Tiny Terrors. I think we're doing a Kickstarter in October. I guess the book is done, so it's just going to be a really quick, easy thing. So look out for that, 99 Tiny Terrors. And I'm in there with a bunch of people. And you can find me on Twitter at BrandonbergDM.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thanks. Yeah, it was nice news to see that it's officially still coming out, and I'm not cursed. So
is that you and 98 others?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. That works then. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch. It's a lot of people. Obviously, 99 people is a lot.
So if our listeners follow you on Twitter, they'll actually be able to come October to see you talk about your writing and they get something.
Yeah. I'll make sure people know. I'll share it. I think I have something else coming out in October, but I haven't gotten any official dates, so I'll keep everyone posted. But yeah, if you officially follow me on Twitter, I'll be good and post. And that, Beau, that's I'm really bad at promoting myself. So
I'm always the 80-20 rule I try to adhere to. But sometimes when I got a new book out, I might go to like 60-40. So I think it's a necessary evil. Yeah, you gotta promote, man. No one else is gonna do it for us.
You do.
This is true, and I'm terrible at it, so I'm trying to get better. And Mike's giving me a hard time about it. So it's good. It's a good hard time about it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's important with not only with self-promotion, but is getting people who are fans to leave reviews. So
yeah,
I will
if you like our podcast, pull up your favorite podcatcher, subscribe, rate, review, whatever your options are over there. Let us know how we're doing. You can follow our Staring Into the Abyss Twitter account at Into Staring. You can follow me, Michael Patrick Hicks, on Twitter at MikeH5856, or head over to my website at michaelpatrickhicks.com and buy some books.
Yeah, and I guess just real quick for the other two, Rich is on Twitter at Rudy5 something.
53088.
I totally forgot what those last.
Said, he's on the thing with the name. He's on.
And I know Vitmay, she's on Twitter. It's her name, Vitmay Mist, and then she also has YouTube, Fanged Pipsqueak. So she does book reviews there. So
good catch, Matt. Thank you for that.
Hey, no problem. I gotta look out for my people.
Well, I was gonna say they're not on the show, so fuck them. They want to pimp their Twitters, they can come onto the goddamn show and do it.
I mean, I did a terrible job at it, but
that's fine.
Yeah. They'll hear this in December, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't listen. It doesn't matter.
Oh, man.
And join us again next week for a new episode with our guest, Eric Raglan, who will be joining us to discuss Patient Zero by Tananarive Due, which you can find in an old episode or an old issue, I should say, of Lightspeed Magazine, which I believe is their August 2010 issue. Until then, keep staring.